Thanks so much everyone for watching. We've got an epic lineup tonight of speakers. We've got an awesome panel here. Amazing group of functional doctors, technology, activists for a leap forward in medicine.
Our goal is to make it easy for practitioners to learn in community.
This ecosystem that is being set up by the meetup groups, we believe will be the future ecosystem of this evolved primary care network, and it all revolves around you.
Welcome to the Functional Forum. Thanks for joining us in the charge to accelerate the evolution of medicine. Please welcome your host, James Maskell.
Hello and welcome to the Functional Forum. This month we are bringing you the best bits from one of the most interesting conferences we've been to. It's the first conference back since the pandemic. We are in Chicago for a conference for functional medicine pharmacists. 2 years ago, I came to my first conference and really saw the potential of this movement to play a role in the evolution of medicine. And so we are back and we are getting some of the best bits from the conference that'll be useful for any practitioner, but also hearing about the role that pharmacists can play in your local community in transforming the immune systems of your patients and the greater community. It's a really interesting conference. Can't wait to show you all the best bits. Enjoy. So first up, we're super excited to welcome Jim LaValle to the Functional Forum for the first time. He has been one of the best known and most loved educators in the space for decades, and we're super excited to chat with him about what it's like to have his pharmacy colleagues learning about functional medicine. Enjoy. All right, well, super grateful to be here with the original functional medicine pharmacist, Jim LaValle. Jim, so obviously when you started this, there weren't that many pharmacists hanging around in functional medicine. What does it mean to you to see all these pharmacists in the room learning about functional medicine?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a passion of mine. It's been 37 years since I first started doing functional medicine and integrative care for people full time, and to see it grow the way it has, it's rewarding to feel like you've been a part of something that's really getting the pharmacy profession to reach out and work with another aspect of what they can do for patient care, which is, help people with prevention and help people to stay healthy and help people to really reach for their vitality. So for me, this is fantastic. I mean, I just love it.
What role for the pharmacist in the transformation of healthcare?
Oh, I mean, in my opinion, pharmacists are in the ideal position to be front line because they see people every day. You've got an average of 150, 200 people a day coming into the independent pharmacist. They can reach people's lives and impact them. Now, the difference is you got to become an advocate and you've got to buy in for yourself, right? So, for me, it's always been important that I walk the talk, and I think that's what's important, is that when you can start to really impact your own life and feel the power of functional and integrative care, I think it makes it easy for you to sell it to your patients because it's infectious.
Absolutely. So your talk here today is called Over-Medicated and Undernourished, a recipe for immune disaster, in brackets, drug-induced immune dysfunction. Tell us about where this title came from and what you've seen over the last 18 months.
Well, I think in general, look, I've started doing databases on drug-induced nutrient depletions 25, maybe even 30 years ago. I've written 4 of them now. So, it's been a long haul to get people to understand that when you are deficient in essential nutrients, it alters virtually every aspect of your chemistry. And of course, your immune system's in the middle of it. Now we've got this bigger understanding of the fact that it's about inflammaging and metaflammation, metabolic inflammation, inflammatory aging, which is driven by the fact that when I can't keep my inflammatory signaling under control, I'm going to accelerate the aging process and I'm going to set myself up for more immune dysfunction. And so when you're on medications, and many people are on 4 and 5 and 6 medications, it could be depleting various types of nutrients, it kind of puts them in a deficiency in terms of how their immune system can interact when they get attacked with the vector that we got hit with this last 18 months. Now, that being said, I'm a very big advocate for the fact that a lot of the people that were at risk, people with diabetes, people that were obese, people with cardiovascular disease, are all the folks that were pretty medicated.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, we know that simple things like diet and exercise actually reduce disease risk dramatically. And I think that's the largest thing that we have to overcome, is getting people to understand it's not just going to be a supplement. It's not just going to be a drug. You're going to have to change your lifestyle if you really want to get to the heart of how you become more resilient.
Can you give us like one example of one mechanism with one drug that has led people who take that drug to become more susceptible to COVID infection and bad outcomes?
Oh, sure, easy. So ACEs and ARBs, so the angiotensin receptor blockade drugs and the angiotensin inhibiting drugs, they deplete zinc. And of course, everybody now is running to the store. You couldn't find zinc on a store shelf, right? And it's because zinc is needed for what's called thymic maturation. Your T killer cells get matured by having adequate zinc. And zinc has some other mechanisms of action as well for the immune system that would make you more resilient and more competent to fight the COVID-19 virus, and of course the variants as well. Everybody's running to get zinc, and for good reason. Yeah. And that's one example of many.
What about the role of polypharmacy and what can pharmacists, what kind of role can pharmacists play in helping to solve that particular issue?
Well, you're talking about probably the biggest issue that we face in pharmacy. Polypharmacy is an issue on several fronts. First of all, for the longest time I always heard there's no evidence base for dietary supplements. There's no evidence base. And then at the same time I would ask, well, where's the evidence base for giving 5 drugs at the same time? There's no evidence for when you give these 5 drugs, this polypharmacy event, to an individual. We don't really know what's happening. And of course, in certain trials where they did have polypharmacy or more aggressive application of drug therapy, they actually saw more adverse events. So, I'm going to go back to the fact that lifestyle means a lot. Nutrient status, like how robust is my chemistry? That means a lot. When you can start to combine lifestyle with proper nutrient sufficiency and then bolster it with nutraceuticals that can maybe give you enhanced support, especially for your immune system in these times, I think that's where you start to get a winning combination. And I think that's where the value of a pharmacist is, because they're right in the front line. They can talk to people about these basic things that need to be done. And of course, they're right there handing the prescriptions to people and should be counseling them on drug-induced nutrient depletions.
So we are here with Dr. Kathy Campbell, aka Dr. Kathy Health, and we have been talking this whole conference about the role of obesity and weight management and what pharmacists can do to quell one of the drivers of the pandemic. So Kathy, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Well, I run and own and operate a independent pharmacy in a small kind of rural suburb of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Owasso, Oklahoma. I've been in that community 30 years. I have 4 generations of families I've been serving, and it was very clear, several years ago that their health was not achieving what I wanted. I've known some of these people longer than I knew my mom, and the thought of their health just progressively getting worse didn't sit well with me. So I created a program. I knew lifestyle was a part of it, called Dr. Kathy Weight Loss, and we've been implementing the lifestyle and weight management program in the pharmacy for 5 years now. And I've got close to 400 patients that have proceeded, and what I'm most excited about is the people that are still living that life 4 to 5 years later. And when the pandemic first started, I was very anxious. I was like, man, how many more people did I need to reach out to and do? But I've been nagging my community about vitamin D for 20 plus years. And what it became clear of is these kind of initiatives, I have people alive today because I've been in this kind of game. We know that medication is a tool in the toolbox, but it is not the only one. Yeah. And being healthy is not taking 5 medicines a day. It's much closer to not needing 5 medications a day. So that's my game. That's what I've been up to, and it's been very busy, and it's a profound privilege to help people regain their health and go on a different way.
It's an amazing opportunity as the pharmacist to sort of be in that spot because you're seeing the same people come in, you're seeing them regularly, and whether they switch doctors or switch jobs or otherwise, they're still coming to you. Yeah,
that relationship is critical, and what I've learned over 30 years is love heals. And that independent pharmacy space is the place where we can routinely dose those little bits of love and connection and trust in ways that the rest of our health system has kind of been dismantled from. Trust me, it hadn't been easy owning an independent pharmacy. It's been at a financial and personal effort for sure, but the rewards have been phenomenal. I have multiple generations. You get to see familial patterns. You get to see successes, and you also see the tragedies as well, but then you get to support them in those times. And so it's a profoundly deep privilege to be that partner in health with patients.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I'm sure your community appreciates it so much. Let's check out the next segment. Yeah, well, I know you've been here at all 6 of these events, yeah. But there's something you said last night when we were at the, the meetup of just how you ended up, fully integrating with the rest of the functional medicine community in Peoria, Illinois. And I'd just love for you to share a little bit of that wisdom for the practitioners who are now forming into these functional forum communities that we're building.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I started a functional meeting 15 years ago in Peoria, and I found out that for me to be in relationship with other practitioners was the way for all of us to learn from one another. I had my way as a pharmacist. I looked through my lenses, and then we made sure that we had physicians on board, chiropractors on board, bodywork people on board, you name it, we invited them. And what we found was this synergy that we didn't expect. I thought it was going to be great, but I had no idea. The legs on this thing, 15 years later, this group is still meeting. I'm not even a part of it anymore. And they've taken over and just do an absolutely phenomenal job. And what we get to do is talk about our patients and how we view the patients and how we would treat, and then we just learn from one another. And then the community itself. I just had someone ask me, how did you build a practice that big in a town of 100,000 people? And it was because, one of the reasons was because of having these meetings. It's absolutely, we all rely on each other, we all refer to one another.
What's the difference in learning between like didactic off lectures versus case collaboration?
Well, I think, if you see a good speaker, it's the story that gets you. And for us, being on the front line with our patients, when someone when someone goes into a case study, we know that that's a real person and that there's real consequences to their illness, to themselves, to their families, to their ability to have a job, right? We know, we know the deficits that happen in a patient's lives when they're sick. And so everybody's right on their knife edge, right? Well, we're not sure what to do, but we know we got to do something. And so the sharing starts happening, and then boom, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got a plan. The 25 of us made a plan, and the physician or chiropractor or pharmacist can't wait to get back to that patient the next day.
And they're super excited about functional medicine, and they're super excited about their community. This is the kind of grand rounds that's happening in hospitals that we need to recreate if we're going to reinvent medicine. And I'm super excited that at the time that this interview is going out, we're in the process of relaunching the Functional Forum communities. Make sure we'll put a link below so that you know exactly how you can get in touch, find the group in your area, you can request a group, you can be part of a group, you can lead a group. We're super excited, and thank you so much all those years ago for setting an amazing foundation for this, and I'm just super grateful that to be in a position where we can bring that kind of community to every city in America.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be wonderful. It's going to change medicine.
Thank you. All right, you heard it first here. Go join a group. So last night there was a meetup for the Functional Medicine Pharmacists Alliance, where we brought together pharmacists from all over the country to share their stories and best practices. It was a really inspiring event, and here are some of the best bits.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna in Tribuna. I'm from a little tiny town in Alabama, hence this accent. I'm from Coleman, Alabama, and I too work for Walmart Pharmacy. And 4 years ago, I lost my mom, and everyone knows me as the pharmacist that doesn't like pills. I don't like to take them. If I don't have to prescribe them and dispense them, that would be a great day. So after I lost my mom, of course, my primary care doctor said, "Anna, what do you need? You need something," and she knows I hadn't slept, and I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And so I ran across a probiotic that said for mood, and I'm like, well, I'm not grouchy, I'm just sad. Let me try it. And so with the first dose, I slept through the night. I slept well, I didn't cry. And so I was like, there's something, and then that happened the next night, and the next night, and the next night, and then I started recommending it to patients, and they came back and said, this is great, this is wonderful, thank you so much. And then I was like, there's something to this probiotic thing. And then a friend, I had allergies at the time, and a friend, a pharmacist, also put D-Hist in my hand. I had terrible allergies to the point where I had polyps on my throat. I'm a singer as well. I couldn't sing anymore. So my ENT said no singing, absolutely no singing. And so my friend Charlie Sutherland out in Knoxville gave me D-Hist, orthomolecular by D-Hist. He said, just take it. Don't read anything, just take it. And I took it and came off of 4 prescriptions. And I'm like, that was another functional medicine wink. I'm like, what's going on? And so I went back to school. I went and got an integrative health coaching degree. After all those years of school, the irony is you need to go back because we don't know anything. So did that, and then I just kind of had this idea, no one in my town does functional medicine. No one. And so I just kind of wrote some ideas on paper, started coming to these meetings, started listening to anything I could get my hands on, started reading. And so the idea on paper became a conversation with an independent pharmacist that had been my mentor for years, and she had an office space, and it was available on Wednesdays. And so I snuck right in, and so I've been consulting with her, just celebrated 1 year last week as a functional medicine consultant, and every one of my patients are getting better, which is such an honor to me because I've dedicated my life to medicine, and no other scenario have I seen like that in a retail setting. I've done a hospital setting, I've done compounding. They're all grateful and they're all wonderful, but I've never had a patient run to me with such excitement in her eyes because she had an appointment with Mother Nature. That's astounding, and she's so excited and she's tearing. I'm like, oh my goodness. Or I can say that again with someone that slept the first time in 20 years. She's never slept, and we just had a conversation that led to all these things about her health, and I'm like, are you afraid of the dark? I don't know what spawned me to say that, but I did, and that was the breakthrough. I'm like, let's talk about night lights. and she slept ever since. So sometimes it's not just giving something to a patient, but it's being engaged. It's listening, it's understanding, and it's just being non-judgmental. So this side of medicine has been so rewarding to me. I'm so green at this. Like I said, I just celebrated a year. All my patients are getting better. I'm so thankful, but I want to help more patients, and I want to be able to do it efficiently, and I want to be able to give 110% to every one of my patients so that they can have these stories. And I appreciate y'all putting these things together because they're so valuable to me.
Hi, I'm Veronica Riera Gilly. I'm from Sherman, Texas, and I'm a holistic geriatric pharmacist. And I really love talking to my patients about death and dying. And that sounds weird, but I think it's really important to know how you want to die, because that determines what kind of healthcare you choose today. And so I talk to patients, have you thought about how you want to die? And is the healthcare that you're choosing today, is it going to get you there? Is it going to get you to that good end? So that's my main passion, but I have a lot of passions. I'm also part of the Farm to Table team. I love functional medicine because I think it's how we help the deprescribing process. It's by looking at the root cause. And so it's the best solution. And I was introduced to functional medicine 10 years ago at a Food as Medicine conference, and it absolutely rocked my world. And I got so excited about how we could actually fix polypharmacy, because I realized I got out of school and I didn't really know how to do it. I knew that patients didn't need to be on all the drugs that they were on, but I didn't actually know how to help that. And when I was introduced to food as medicine and functional medicine, I saw the answer, and I was really excited that was going to keep people out of this negative downward spiral in aging, because it doesn't have to look like that. And we don't have to accept that we're all going to end up in nursing care. Like, if I can keep patients out of a nursing home setting and keep them in independent living, I've done my job well. And that excites me, that this is how we can age well.
All right, so we are here with Dr. Lara Zakaria. She is going to be doing 3 lectures here today, and we're going to have just a few of the best bits later. I don't know how we're going to choose what those best bits are, but tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about today.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to actually have the opportunity to weave some of the conversation about energy, the interface of the gut and the immune system, and then tying it together with phytonutrients. So we're going to be walking through and talking about the way the immune system sort of relies on these other systems and how the nutritional component sort of sits underneath it as a foundation.
Absolutely. How exciting is it to have these pharmacists stepping up to playing an important role in strengthening the immune system and dealing with polypharmacy and all the things that maybe only pharmacists can do?
I love this question because I have been so excited to see pharmacists really stepping into functional medicine and really embracing this framework. We're perfectly suited, right? We sit at the community engaging with our patients on a day-to-day basis, and we have a list of their medications which could have drug-induced nutrient depletions, and we have the opportunity to have a conversation about it. And once we have the tools and we come to conferences like this and we learn from each other and learn about not just the science part, but also learn from each other on how we're implementing in our own practices, it's that synergy that takes it to the next level.
If there's one thing that you want all of these pharmacists to leave with here today, to go back and deliver great immune education and immune care to their communities, what would that be?
I'd say dive right in, jump in. We're in the middle of a pandemic and it's not going away anytime soon. We need to start thinking about how our role within community pharmacy, or whatever setting we're in, whether it be hospital, health system, wherever, our role is to optimize patient care. Sometimes that means adjunctive therapy to what they're on medication-wise. That's our area of expertise, but we're also the ones to go to when it comes to optimizing that care. We're the ones that can understand where those nutrient depletions are or what nutrients can enhance the activity of a particular medication. And then, of course, laying in and having that conversation, consulting about lifestyle, diet, stress management, sleep, exercise, right? Where we owe it to our patients to make sure that we're having these conversations so that they're getting the most out of their healthcare.
Well, if you wanted the full experience, you had to be here, but here are some of the best bits from Dr. Zakaria's lectures. Enjoy.
My name is Erin Bass. I'm from North Carolina, small town in North Carolina, opposite end of the state from you. We're near Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm a newbie also. This is my first time at one of these. I'm so excited to hear from everybody. This is amazing because there are so many different avenues here that you can go down, and that's absolutely amazing. And I'm almost 40, and I never thought that I would do anything different than community pharmacy. It's what I'd always done. I'd done it since I was 16 years old. I was technician, pharmacy manager, the whole thing. Last year shifted all that. Kind of felt like we went a direction that I didn't agree with at all. Very frustrated with the whole system, and we weren't helping anybody anymore. We weren't. And it was just a wake up call, like to go into work every day and just to feel like you're not doing what you're called to do. 100% not. And accidentally fell down the rabbit hole of functional medicine just online, and did I think it was a business CE that you guys had back earlier part of the year. Did that. It was fascinating just to see all the different areas that you could go with this. And so got started with a health coach certification, just finished that. I'm going to start classes soon. I don't know which, so give me tips. I don't know which place to go with. And I would just love to feel like I was actually helping somebody again. Just so it's all brand new. I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, trying to figure out what I want to do next. So I'm here to get ideas and learn from you guys who've been doing it for a while. So I'm super excited to be here. So thank you.
So Dr. Andy Heyman is one of the best loved educators in the functional medicine space. He is an expert in SIRS and chronic immune conditions, and he gave a couple of lectures. He wasn't able to make it in person, but we've taken some of the best bits from his virtual lecture.
We immediately began to apply our transcriptomics model. And what that meant was that we were able to begin to measure mRNA expression at the level of the genome. We initially started off in 2015 looking at the full 30,000 genes. Over time, we reduced from 9,000 to 7,000 to 900. Now we're down to about 188 candidate genes, all mitochondrial, that really control cellular activity. Now, this was a revelation for me. We often thought of the mitochondria as just sort of the energy packet of the cell. We didn't realize the extent to which all these mitochondrial genes orchestrated an immune response as well as a metabolic response. And it made sense. The mitochondria are the first organelle to sense a threat to a cell. They actually sense that very subtle electron depolarization on the outer cell membrane when a threat is present. That cell signal goes right to the mitochondria. It doesn't go to the nucleus. It goes to the mitochondria. The mitochondria immediately shift, and they start changing how they burn energy, and they reduce their consumption of oxygen in favor of producing inflammatory compounds and reactive oxygen species. Now, why does the cell do this? Why does the mitochondria orchestrate this? Well, it orchestrates this because the cells are pretty much only good at doing a few things at the same time. Either they can be energy plants with good cell-to-cell communication and good oxidative phosphorylation, or they can shift into becoming a battleship. Cells shift into battleship stance. In response to a threat, it's the mitochondria that orchestrates that, and we have measured that and shown that that orchestration happens at the level of the genome, orchestrated by changes in gene expression. And how do we measure that gene expression? mRNA. So we have a research lab in Massachusetts, and we're able to measure the transcriptome, which is the mRNA. And so we can tell which genes are turned on or off based on measuring levels of mRNA. Now, interestingly, this actually happens on a sliding scale. So it's not so much that genes turn on and off like light switches, but there's a variation in their activity within a normal range, up and down. But genes can also be overly expressed or underexpressed. And the way I think about it is each gene is sort of like an instrument in an orchestra. And some genes and sections of the orchestra can be playing too loudly, and others can be playing too quietly. In addition to that, to go along with that theme, the way I explain it to patients is if they've done 23andMe or some other genetic test, genetics was really designed to answer the question, were each of the instruments in your orchestra built properly? Does your clarinet have all the right keys? Was your cello have the right number of strings and tuned in the right order? That's genetics. And you could say, of course, maybe one instrument in your full complement of 30,000 is not built properly. And maybe the sound that instrument makes is not what it should be. So maybe the signal to the cell is not what it should be. But what we're now talking about is this frame shift where you could have a whole section of that patient's orchestra where all of the instruments were built normally, but they're not playing the music the way they should. We don't have melody and harmony, we have discord. And that's this sort of progression, this evolution from genetics to genomics, from structure to function. And that's a profound statement because you're talking about groups and groups of genes that are behaving in abnormal ways, even if those genes were built normally. So we're going to have to take that into account because I know some of you are probably very invested in the genetic model. I can tell you we've already passed you. It's already old school. And while we're still searching to find those genetic changes, those structural shifts that might implicate problems in metabolism, the fact that we can measure metabolism now, we can measure gene expression, we can measure small molecules, we can tell whether or not those genetic variations have meaning in terms of the patient's health and illness. And I can say for certain, for example, if you're just thinking, well, does methylation play a role in SIRS? At least on a genetic level, MTHFR, the answer is no, it does not. That we don't see heterozygosity or homozygosity of the MTHFR genes or related genes having a big impact on this illness. And oftentimes practitioners will make the mistake of saying, well, this is an illness of detox. And if your MTHFR gene is abnormal, you're going to have a problem, quote, detoxing mycotoxins. Well, that's not what we're trying to do in this illness. We're trying to re-regulate gene expression. We're trying to turn down inflammation. We're trying to improve metabolism. We're trying to rebalance those metabotypes. There is a lot of work to be done in this patient population. Detox ain't one of them, believe it or not. It's a very small part of this illness process. So the transcriptomics for us is a breakthrough. It allows us to see things in patients we couldn't see in their blood, that we couldn't see in structural scans, that we couldn't see in other ways of evaluating them. That finally, when we got down to how genes are turning on and off, it revealed the complexity of this illness in ways that we just couldn't predict.
All right, I am here with Dr. Vanessa Lesneski, otherwise known as Dr. L, and you are bringing functional pharmacy education to the people. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I have an elective in functional medicine for pharmacy students. I teach pharmacy school at Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine, and I get to introduce students to a different way of approaching healthcare.
Do those students come to take this program because of your course, or do you kind of like have to convince them that they should take this?
I did no convincing, and my elective fills up every time. I have a feeling a lot of the students had no idea what they were getting into the first round, but I do think it's a little bit of a word of mouth situation. So my elective has gained in popularity, and everybody gives me really great feedback. So I'm going to keep doing it.
And then news spreads from year to year, I'd imagine, right?
Correct, yes.
So what's it like coming to a conference like this? I know last night you just saw like how many inspiring stories there were of pharmacists, trying to practice in a new way. What do you think about the movement of the functional pharmacist?
Well, I've been working closely with a couple of the key people in this movement. So Dr. Hartzler, Dr. Zakaria, and Dr. Castle as well. We've been working closely together, and we've kind of made sure that our mission and our purpose and our are kind of all in the same point, so that way we can move the ball forward for pharmacists in this area. I believe pharmacists are very well positioned for functional medicine because we're already trained to look at the whole person. When we do a drug interaction check, we're not just looking at the drugs for their depression or the drugs for their lipids. We're looking at how all of those drugs interplay anyway, and that is kind of like already setting the student up to understand functional medicine. So functional medicine is looking at the whole person. You can't get to root cause without looking at the whole person, and we've kind of already have that framework as pharmacists. So the students easily kind of jump on and get it.
Are you getting sniffs from any other schools saying like, hey, we want something like this?
Yes, I've gotten approached quite a bit. So Dr. Hartzler and I myself are kind of looking at how we want to do that.
All right, well, opportunities popping up for functional medicine to go into pharmacist education. Super exciting. Thank you for leading the charge.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, let's check out the next segment. All right, we are here with Dr. Shilpa Saxena. And Doc, it's great to see you again. It's been a minute.
It's been a long minute.
But this feels very comfortable. We've done this so many times by now that...
I know, it's nostalgic to be together again, right?
Exactly. So, look, I know you're the group visit guru. COVID happened. What did you do?
You know, I still think community is needed more than ever. So what we did was, knowing that group medical appointments still make a huge impact on people's ability to get knowledge that they need, to get the engagement and activation, what we did was we just went virtual. It seemed as though there was definitely a pause time, right? Like where everybody was figuring out how to live in the world of the COVID pandemic. Most everybody has learned how to use Zoom in some way because they needed that to be able to get in touch with their family. So what we did was we just took advantage of a new skill that most of the population was acquiring at a quick speed. So all we did was we're seeing patients with telehealth, and then we gathered people on a Zoom conference line. And what we did, what worked out really nice, is we started a mental health group visit. And you would think that that would be an awkward topic, but on Zoom, it works beautifully because people were allowed to not show their video. They could rename themselves whatever they wanted. And if they had a question, they could privately chat with me or the person who's moderating with me. And so we had many more people show up to group visits, having it be virtual for convenience, but also for privacy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I know you've been spreading the gospel of the group visit to many different people. Like pharmacy is kind of a private thing, right? So what are you doing at this conference to try and get pharmacists interested in groups?
You know, what I really do believe is that many times patients are seeing their providers. They might be seeing them at 5 to 7 minute clips, and it's the pharmacist who really is their main educator, their advocate, as it is in healthcare. And so I'm thinking that we need to empower pharmacists to recognize you might be the best friend of that patient when it comes to their health care. And why not leverage your knowledge of functional and lifestyle medicine and use group medical appointments to help them with lifestyle reprogramming? Because we all know that having a healthier immune system, using lifestyle, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management gives them a leg up on being able to handle whatever there is to handle about COVID.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming and being here. And we're going to show you some of the best bits from Shilpa's talk. Enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Functional Forum. We hope that wherever you are, whatever type of practitioner you are, you've enjoyed this month's episode and that you've learned something, and you've also seen that pharmacists can play a critical role in the evolution of medicine. And we look forward to welcoming all practitioners, especially pharmacists, to our new Functional Forum communities. Speaking of which, next month's Functional Forum, we are coming back live, just like we used to do it at the beginning. We're going to be in Boulder, Colorado. It's going to be the 1st of November. It's going to be an epic episode. Hope you can join us live. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.